Both Clay and Bill are clearly confused, seeing them drooling over that dangerous monster. Clay tries to warn Takaro that it's not a time to celebrate, and right then the giant crab nearly crushes him. Takaro quickly dodges the attack, and Clay explains that they are facing a Trango crab, a fierce rank monster. Despite the warnings, Takaro only sees it as a possible main dish, and no one is going to change his mind now. That's why he takes out his staff and asks Bill to cover him without using fire or lightning. Takaro then activates reduction and hardening in both hands and feet to fight, while V supports him with a sonic attack. As soon as he strikes the crab with his staff, Takeru realizes it is tougher than it seems, but that won't stop him. After dodging an attack, V uses his ice magic to freeze one of the crab's legs, and Takeru uses Scan to find its weak spot. Once he locates it, he casts a spell to create ice needles and combines them with V's magic to completely freeze the Trango crab. Everyone is astonished to witness such a feat because, however, it's quite obvious that Clayston is upset and approaches Takeru to ask why they fought alone. At that moment, Takeru realizes that he messed up, so he nervously explains that he got carried away. He also thought that if they used weapons covered in mud and blood, they might ruin the edible parts. Clay can't believe he plans to eat that thing, but lets the comment slide, and reminds Takeru that he is his bodyguard. Takeru replies that he is a bit more accustomed to fighting crabs, and Clay admits that his magic is impressive. But even so, in moments like that, he must keep calm, trust his allies, and fight together. Clay clarifies that even at their level, they would never ignore his judgment, so he needs to trust them a bit more. Once everything is clear, both Takaro and V apologize, and Claystone easily forgives them before going to remove the crab from the mines. After a while, they manage to extract all the mineral from around Eldirith, but Takaro still detects strong readings further ahead. So they dig deeper because there is a good chance of finding an even larger quantity. Dambo tells him that he defeated them, so he has discovered that entire deposit. Suddenly, he begins to cry with happiness, and Takeru cannot help but think about everything that has happened so far. Earthquakes, distortions throughout the land, monsters awakened by the magical essence, and more. This leads him to believe that Voldia's magical essence may have had a larger impact than he had thought. Operating in locations affected by all of that makes him think that this might be what the god referred to when he said a single drop can change the world. Upon returning, Takeru reflects on the fact that he has been doing things his own way all along, and perhaps he is gradually changing this world. If that's the case, he hopes it will be a positive change for everyone he has met during his journey when they reunite. With King Takerol reporting that the investigation inside the mine is complete and that they eliminated the greatest threat, his master confirms, saying he saw everything with his own eyes and that he did blink once. Takeru decides to open his bag to show them the frozen Trango crab, whom they believe to be a fearsome demon. Sir Guadin is shocked to see such a terrifying presence and tells them they did well in defeating that dreadful creature, a feat that deserves a reward. With that in mind, Takeru decides to take the crab as his reward, and although the king is quite confused by his request, he grants it to him. Shortly after, they leave the castle, and Belle is more than satisfied, saying that 3 million Nolken rave for each is excellent loot. However, Takeru keeps thinking about the crab, planning to prepare some sashimi first, then grilled crab and maybe a hot pot like last time. V is as excited as he is, but Clay asks them what they are thinking, and Takeru explains that the hard crab shell could serve as an excellent material to make harvesting scissors, so there is a lot to do. The next day, Belle is very excited to receive her reward, a magnificent white steed, the true legendary Pegasus he was searching for. Claystone also receives his reward, his precious spear fully repaired and ready to use. Belle mounts the horse and tells Takeru that he must return home because the Pegasus is meant for his sister. Before leaving, mentions that now he owes him a debt so large that he could spend his entire life and still wouldn't repay it. Takeru tells him not to worry, because he got a crab in return, so they are even. Just then, the carriage arrives. To pick them up, Belle says goodbye, hoping to see him again. When they return to the Guild, Ariana is a bit surprised to see Takeru and Clayston together, so she asks them if they formed a team. Takeru tries to say he just started accompanying them, but Clay interrupts him and says they have formed a temporary team, although its duration is indefinite for now. Ariana jumps with excitement, saying she has to inform Wade about this immediately. After she leaves, Takeru looks at Clay with an accusatory expression, but Clayston remains calm and tells him it's nothing, because he is just a vagabond without any particular destiny. Moreover, he already knows he is something more than an ordinary human. Having someone watch over your eccentric tendencies isn't such a bad idea. Takeru thinks that sounds a bit insulting, but he knows he can't argue, especially seeing how happy V is to have Clay nearby. Although Clay can be a bit preachy, Takeru begins to think that traveling together might not be so bad. After discussing it a little, they decide on a name based on Clay's suggestion, the Black-Blue Brigade. Once that's settled, Takeru heads to meet with Rilvi and Grusas to deliver the Ildrita mineral, hoping to hear their opinion. However, not a single word comes from their mouths as they inspect the Ildrita. They simply begin to tremble. This puzzles him a little because he thought the high-purity Ildrita would be perfect for forging a sword. But now he considers that it might actually be harder to work with when it is too pure. Takeru nervously waits for a response, but Groza bursts out in a cry of euphoria and soon begins to cry alongside Rourke, who tells him he is very glad to have entrusted him with this job. The shine and density of the Ildrita mineral are perfect, so he's truly happy to have found something like this. Groza asks him to calm down, but admits that he's also crying like a baby. This time, instead of arguing or fighting about it, they just embrace and keep crying. More, Takeru is simply glad they're happy, and Grusas tells him he hasn't seen such a Ildrita gathered together in one place in 120 years. While they cry, Takeru isn't quite sure what to do because he knew that the bar was high, but I didn't expect them to get so excited. Even the scan results indicate that Eldrit is a perfect rank of material. But you never know if it's exactly what the client is looking for. In the end, what matters more than market value is delivering exactly what they need. Takeru realizes that he finally begins to feel proud of being a collector, and that makes him quite happy. When he finally stops crying, Rival tells him that with that many stones, they can't possibly pay him enough. Takeru reminds them that he only wants a pair of customized scissors made so they can fix that part later. For now, he just wants them to use those stones and forge a sword so good that it wins first prize at the exhibition. Rival and Gruza immediately wipe away their tears, full of determination to win that prize. Time passes, and 2 weeks later, Takeru happily enjoys a drink, but wait until he approaches her with news. Saying he was looking for him, he hands him a letter and informs that he has received a summons from someone important. Takeru looks somewhat surprised, and Clay tells him that because of the wax seal, it seems to be the coat of arms of the Luz-Levac house. Wade clarifies that it comes from the lord of the Luz-Levac territory where Belkheim is located. Takeru does not seem very enthusiastic upon hearing that it's a territorial lord, like a problem waiting to happen. He tries to fake a sudden stomach ache tomorrow, but Clay asks him to stop making pathetic excuses. Wade quickly responds that Belminen might be a noble, but he's not the unpleasant kind. With that in mind, decides to read the letter, which turns out to be an invitation for him and Clayston to visit it. The Luz-Levac mansion. Wade explains that the gentleman learned they had formed a team, so he decided to summon the entire brigade instead of just one member. Takeru remains unconvinced, saying it sounds like an excuse for something else. Clay agrees, saying he could have directly said that he wants to see the young dragon. This makes Takeru worried, thinking about the possibility that the Lord might try to take Vive away. Waddle assures him that he is not that kind of man, and also lacks the authority to do so. Clayston confirms this and tells Takeru that if that Lord tried to seize V, he would simply leave Valkyne alongside him. Excited, Takeru suggests that they should head to the coast and enjoy some fresh sashimi. With that in mind, Takeru finally agrees, and soon they depart for the mansion in a luxurious noble carriage. He is not exactly pleased with the amount of attention that they attract in that carriage, but Clay explains that being summoned by a lord is any adventurer's dream of any adventurer. After all, if a lord decides to support someone, everything changes. Even a rough and unknown adventurer gains credibility with the backing of a noble. Karante, Gaginya. Once Takeru understands all that, the carriage finally enters the noble district, and he is amazed to see that it is a whole castle. He and V gaze at the building in amazement, and soon they are welcomed by a butler named Raymond, who tells them he will be their guide around the property. Inside the mansion, a formation of maids welcomes them as well, and Takeru is impressed to notice that not a single step is out of sync. Moments later, a young woman suddenly approaches them to see the dragon. He says he expected a bit more intelligence in her eyes, but it's acceptable. The girl asks Takeru to hand it over, asserting that the dragon belongs to her. This leaves both Takeru and V stunned, with V quickly hiding behind his shoulder. Takeru replies that it's not going to happen, but the young woman doesn't understand a word he says. Although he could say the same about her. She explains that dragons are noble creatures, which means that only someone as noble as she is worthy to possess one. Knowing it is useless to try to reason with her, Takeru decides to scan and discovers that this girl is Clarice Marxeluz Levac. She is 14 years old and is the only daughter of Count Belmonent, the lord of these lands. Apparently, Clarice is currently attending a boarding school in the royal capital but has returned home for the holiday. Tessero doesn't quite know how to deal with such an unreasonable girl, but he kneels before her and adopts a gentle tone, kindly asking her why she believes she has the right to keep the dragon. Stellaris is somewhat surprised by his way of speaking, so she simply explains to him that Bernard told her there was an adventurer who had a dragon, and naturally she must have it. He also told her that when dealing with rough and ignorant adventurers, she should be firm and act with dignity so that they would obey her. Takeru immediately understands that Bernard is the culprit. He has no idea who that person is. Still, he tells the girl that V is part of his family, so he cannot give it to anyone. Larry is surprised to hear this, so he asks the dragon if that really is a man, and V confirms it with a small chirp. But she clearly did not expect. He wanted her to respond, so Takeru tells her that V can understand human language. Clarice. She begins to feel guilty, unsure what to do, as she realizes she had spoken cruelly towards both without thinking of the bond that unites them. She decides to apologize for her behavior, and V easily forgives her, coming closer to her with a little more confidence, though he soon regrets it when the girl suddenly hugs him tightly, leaving him no room to breathe. Takeru asks her why she wants to have a dragon so much, and Taleri's expression becomes slightly sad when she explains that she wanted to show the land to her mother. Before she starts to cry, her father finally appears, and Takeru is shocked to see that such a man, handsome is the lord of the place because he looks too young to hold that title, Liminan, approaches him assuming he is the collector he has heard about. After a formal introduction, he sits down with you, and the Liminal apologizes for the behavior of his daughter, as she was terribly rude to him. Takeru asks her not to worry, and Clay asks what matter has brought them here. The Liminal informs them that there is only one reason why she summoned them. There is something she needs to ask of them. Clay is in a look of hatred, sensing what she is going to say. With a sad expression, Belmonando admits that it concerns his wife. Clay explains to Takeru that the lady has been bedridden for nearly half a year. Belmonando mentions that during that time he heard rumors about Takeru, as it was said that a sickly tenant from the Vaspo district had recovered his health overnight thanks to his work. Takeru admits with some discomfort that it was probably him, so Belmondo begs him to use that extraordinary power to save his wife. Takeru thinks about it, knowing that his magic is strong enough to evolve Clayton, but if he disrupts something, nobody knows what might happen. Belmondo explains to him that Theares wanted a dragon for her mother, as she must return to the capital in a few days to attend classes. She thought that if an adorable creature stayed by her mother's side, it might lift her spirits, even if just a little bit. Moi, Takeru is surprised. She may be somewhat foolish, and Belmondo assures him that Clay can't hold back anymore and begins to cry, that Theares is truly a kind daughter. Her tears leave Takeru utterly confused, and the way Clay looks at him makes him think she is trying to guilt him into agreeing. V also cries uncontrollably, but Takeru keeps doubting since Belmondo is a noble, and that means a single misstep can lead to serious trouble. Before responding, Takeru asks to see his wife, but Belmondo assumes he has already accepted the request. Seeing the hope on his face, Takeru mentally reprimands himself for not being clearer, and he has no choice but to proceed. Belmondo leads him to the castle, and once they enter his lighted room, Takeru immediately notices that Vino cannot avoid sneezing due to the heavy dust in the room, but Takeru ignores it to focus on the real problem. Belmondo's wife asks him what brings him here, and he replies that he has brought the man he told her about before, the one said to be able to cure diseases with a mysterious power. When Takeru sees her in person, he is shocked by the deplorable state of her body and how weak she looks, but he cannot utter a single word. Belmondo asks him to come closer, but before doing nothing, Takeru asks if they could brighten the room a bit. Belmondo explains that his wife is sensitive to sunlight, so they cannot do it. With that clear, Takeru decides to take a closer look, and finally approaches the woman to assess her condition. Silently, he scans her to learn everything about her health, and his ability informs him that Belmondo's wife is Ahmed Muliria, a 32-year-old woman. She is the wife of Count Luz Levac and the eldest daughter of the Viscount of Cordelius. Beyond that, Takeru observes that she suffers from complex cataracts, gait disorder, anemia, kidney problems, iodine poisoning, and other complications. It is clear that her body is full of illnesses, so he tells Belmondo that he can probably treat some of the symptoms, such as light sensitivity, joint pains, stomach aches, dizziness, and things like that. Belmondo's face fills with hope, but despite his cheerful expression, Takeru knows there is something more. He had never heard of poisoning by either, and that is clearly worrying in this case. Still, he knows that even if his magic can't cure that, healing the rest would already be of great help. Clay notices his worried expression and asks him what is happening, but Takeru does not respond and tells Belmanin that everything will depend on her trust. After all, he is nothing more than an unknown adventurer. So she needs to know if she will truly put her husband's life in his hands. Hearing that. But Muletaria intervenes and says she does not expect her husband decides. If only she could hug Tiaris again, that would be enough for her. Belmanin cries beside his wife, but despite the tears, his expression is full of determination, so he asks Takeru to save her. That response is enough for Takeru to fully decide and finally agree to do it. Remember to subscribe to the channel. With this, comment Dragon and let us know you stayed until this point. If you part of the video, and you can also watch these other videos shown below.